My name is Robert Wallace. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and I just welcome you all along here today, this morning. Early morning is not always the best time for some of us. As soon as I arrived, Tracy from the rest point here immediately put a cup of coffee in my hand, just to make sure that I had that quick fix and not go into a tailspin of, oh dear, what's happening here, and all those sorts of things. Some of us need that. This morning has been a tradition over the last few years for the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry to invite people along to hear from the Treasurer. And with over 400 people here this morning, this obviously has been a function which people do enjoy, do come along, and we want to be able to give you as much time as possible with questions and things to interact with the Treasurer. Firstly, I'd just like to again welcome you all, particularly to Premier David Bartlett for coming this morning, for Deputy Premier Lara Giddings, for the Treasurer Michael Aird, who we'll hear from shortly, the Leader of the Opposition, Will Hodgman, Rebecca White, Scott Bacon and Vanessa Goodwin. I'm now going to introduce our Chairman of TCCI, Martin Rees, and I'd just like to say a quick word. I don't want to embarrass him, but over the last couple of years, Martin has put a huge amount of time and effort into the TCCI on behalf of the business community in the state. And I would also just like to say that all directors, some people aren't aware of this, but all directors on the TCCI board do it without any remuneration. It's a commitment that they give back to the community, the business community and the broader community in this state, and often that goes unrecognised. So I'd just like to make you aware of that and to invite Martin Rees up onto the podium to say a few words.
Yes, good morning ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the TCCI's Budget Breakfast. This show hits the road up to Launceston for lunch and then to Devonport for cocktails, so it's going to be a long day for those participants, but it's a very important day and important budget. Particularly like to thank Australia Post for their sponsorship today. Nick Connor, thanks very much for providing that sponsorship, otherwise it would be difficult to get this day completed, so thanks Nick, it's much appreciated. Also, I'd like to welcome the other directors of the TCCI that are here today, which is Rob Ward and Darren Alexander. Thank you for attending. I guess one bit of work that we did when Richard was still with us before he was stolen by the government, but that's fair enough. Actually, it was a plant. We did it on purpose 3 years ago when we actually employed him. We thought that's where he'd end up, but anyway. Did a bit of work on aligning, if you like, the confidence of Tasmanian business and the government budget. And it became quite clear to us that if the state budget is in a sound position, because we are so reliant on government in the state, business confidence was sound as well. And there was a direct correlation between the two. So from our perspective, to see the budget coming back into a good shape, in theory at least, suggests that business confidence should continue to improve, which then promotes private sector investment, which is what we need in the state to lift up over the next 12 months to 2 years. So that's a really good outcome, and certainly from a TCCI perspective that's great, as is the spend on infrastructure, but I guess like anything, and everyone says it, we can always go further. One thing that we've also done at TCCI is what we call our demographic time bomb, which Richard's also responsible for, which shows that the cost of government in this state is very expensive, and that clearly in the long term, we have two simple options, as one of my KPMG partners, David Crawford, who's now chairman of BHP, said there's only one way to go broke, and that's run out of cash. You can only fix that by either increasing your revenue or lowering your costs. So I'm suggesting that increasing revenue is not good. We don't want that. Lowering costs is a wonderful way to do things. And when now our wages bill has increased by $250 million in next year's budget for the state, it will be a wonderful thing to see if we can put some productivity gains around that and continue to lower the cost of government in this state, which gives us more money to put into infrastructure, which drives our economy. So we can always go further. This has been a great start, so that's tremendous. My final role is to introduce the Premier. I first met David 9 years ago, which is not long ago, when he was Head of Innovation in DED, which is an incredible journey in 9 years to what he's done. And I guess his period with David Crean as Treasurer, advising in that area for probably 2 or 3 years, I'm not quite sure, would have held him in great stead to understand the importance of the budget for this state. So without any further ado, I'd like to join me in welcoming the Premier David Bartlett.
Well, thanks Martin, and thanks for the warm welcome on a chilly winter Hobart morning. But it's great to see so many people here today. Acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues, of course, but I acknowledge that this breakfast over the years that I've been attending it has really changed and grown, and I think it's a really terrific to see that while it's a TCCI business breakfast, that many from the social sector, the arts sector and many other sectors in Tasmania are also welcome here and part of a broader debate and discussion. And in fact, I think the significance of the people in this room, the brains trust, if you like, of Tasmania, the engine room of ideas and productivity, this room and no doubt the other 2 rooms that the Treasurer will talk in today. It's a really important event on the calendar for us, so I thank Martin, the TCCI, for your work in putting it together. Can I just say that on the subject of Richard Dowling, you might claim that he's a plant now in the government, but you see, we've had a long-term plan, and it may be that he was a plant at your place first. It is very pleasing, I've got to say though, that in a new era of politics, with a new and refreshed cabinet, we also have very much a new and refreshed approach to ministerial officers. And Richard, along with Gary Swain and Sean Terry and Mike Nermit and a number of others that have come into the political offices with great business experience, will be key to continuing our innovative thought about the Tasmanian economy and how we proceed. This is a very inclusive event, and therefore one that has morphed into something that we can talk much more broadly about the budget and about the values contained in the budget than just the business and productivity side of the equation. In fact, it was Tim Costello, social justice campaigner, of course, brother of former Federal Treasurer, who once said a budget can be thought of as a value statement for a government. And certainly by saying where we are spending your money on behalf of the community, a government lays out a set of values, whether deliberately or not. But certainly we've endeavoured in this budget to lay out a set of values for a new era of cooperative politics and a new era of productivity and innovation in our thinking, both in our economy, in support of business in Tasmania, but also in the social sector side of the equation. My key message then, through those values to you, is that this government is determined to make a positive difference to the lives of every Tasmanian now and into the future. And I think it's necessary in this new era of politics and the parliament we find ourselves in to ensure that every Tasmanian is viewed as important to this government as another. We shouldn't underestimate the threats though and the challenges that we have managed our way through, that the GFC of course had on local economies and is still having on our economy. But while we have managed our way through the shock of that, this budget sets out a plan for renewed growth, a growing state, and one which sees our communities and the Tasmanian people prosper. We will continue to meet our fundamental commitment to our fiscal strategy, and that is an approach that I think has served us and the Tasmanian community well.